Welcome to the King Tales. Thank you for the love and support. Let's dive in. 3 years had passed since Omalika and Madhu were married, and on the surface, life in Uli seemed prosperous and complete. Madhu's business had grown beyond expectations, his name carried weight in distant markets, and his household lacked nothing essential. Yet beneath that success, unrest quietly brewed. Madhu's mother, Nemedu, grew increasingly troubled by the couple's childlessness. Though Madhu never blamed Omalika and loved her deeply, Nemedu and her daughters, Amora and Mo, became consumed with suspicion and bitterness. They whispered behind Omalika's back, watching her every move and questioning her worth as a wife. One afternoon, as Omalika calmly kneaded dough in the courtyard, unaware of their plotting, the three women resolved to find Madhu another wife, someone who would bear children and secure the family line. When Madhu later left for a distant trading journey, they seized their opportunity. Confronting Omalika with cold hostility, they accused her of failing in her duty and revealed their decision. Despite her quiet defense and unwavering faith that children would come in time, they dismissed her patience as weakness. At last, Nemedu declared that a new bride had been chosen and ordered Omalika to leave the house forever. Though her heart shattered, Omalika did not argue or protest. With quiet dignity, she gathered her few belongings and stepped out into the night. Under the pale glow of the moon, she walked away from the home she had nurtured with love, carrying her pain in silence. Behind her, the household stood heavy with the weight of its decision, while the village slept unaware of the quiet injustice that had just unfolded. Omalika still believed in love and kindness, even after the cruelty she had endured. When Madhu returned to Uli on a warm morning, his cart heavy with goods and his heart light with anticipation, he expected to see her waiting with her usual gentle smile. Instead, he was met with silence and uneasy glances from the villagers. At home, the quiet felt unnatural. No humming from the kitchen, no warm greeting, only a cold stillness that tightened his chest. His mother and sisters claimed Omalika had left of her own will, but their words felt rehearsed and hollow. Sensing deception, Madhu refused to accept their explanation. With the help of his loyal friend Chick, he set out immediately to search for his wife. After days of relentless travel, following small clues and fading rumors, they arrived at a grand palace in a distant town. There, to Madhu's astonishment, he saw Omalika dressed in royal garments, being welcomed through towering gates. Guards moved aside as he cried out her name. The truth unfolded swiftly. Omalika was no ordinary woman, but a princess, daughter of a powerful king and queen. She had once left the palace to live a simple life, seeking to be loved for who she truly was rather than for her status. She had chosen Madhu because of his kindness, and quietly used her wealth to help him succeed without ever revealing her identity. In the palace, surrounded by dignity and grace, Omalika revealed that she had been forced out of Madhu's home by his family. She had returned to her parents for safety, but her love for Madhu had never wavered. The king and queen, recognizing Madhu's sincere devotion, welcomed him as family. With compassion rather than vengeance, they resolved to return to Uli together and confront the injustice that had been done. The next morning, a royal convoy set out toward the village, not in secrecy, but in truth. As they traveled, Madhu held Omalika's hand firmly, no longer afraid of losing her. She gazed ahead calmly, carrying both the memory of her pain and the strength of her dignity. This time, she would not return alone or in silence. She would return as both the humble woman of Uli and the princess she had always been, with love beside her and truth leading the way. The queen watched the scene unfold with a full and grateful heart, while the king stood calmly, certain that justice guided by truth would prevail. By midday, the royal convoy entered Uli, and the quiet village was shaken by a sight it had never witnessed before. Guards marched with dignity, banners fluttered above the marketplace, and at the heart of the procession stood Madhu and Omalika. Villagers froze in disbelief, farmers lowered their tools, traders paused mid-sale, and children stared wide-eyed at the shining carriage. Whispers spread quickly, and soon the entire village gathered in the square, astonished to see the couple they once knew standing beside the king and queen. When the king addressed the crowd, his voice carried authority without anger. He revealed that Omalika was a princess and that the wealth that had blessed Madu's household came from her generosity and royal inheritance. Shock rippled through the villagers. Then came the deeper truth: Omalika had been driven from her home through jealousy and misunderstanding. All eyes turned to Nemedu and her daughters, who stood trembling before the crowd. Overcome with shame, they fell to their knees and begged for forgiveness. What happened next silenced the village even more powerfully than the king's words. Omalika stepped forward, lifted her mother-in-law from the dust, and forgave her without bitterness. Madu followed her example, urging everyone to learn from the mistake rather than cling to blame. The tension broke, replaced by relief and admiration. That evening, the village celebrated with a grand feast filled with music, laughter, and shared gratitude. Madu spoke of humility and kindness, reminding everyone that true greatness lies not in power but in character. When the royal family departed under a sky bright with stars, Uli was no longer the same. The story of Omalika, the humble woman who was also a princess, became part of the village's living memory, a tale told by firelight for generations. Back in Akwas, palace life resumed with renewed warmth. Yet despite the splendor surrounding her, Omalika remained unchanged, gentle, gracious, and grounded in the same love and kindness that had shaped her destiny from the beginning. Omalika remained humble despite her royal title. She greeted servants warmly, thanked them personally, and often insisted on helping in small ways, even when told it was unnecessary. Palace workers whispered in admiration, never had they seen a princess so gentle and approachable. Madu, too, remained unchanged at heart. Though he now walked through grand halls of polished stone and carved pillars, he still greeted guards by name, listened more than he spoke, and treated everyone with quiet respect. The king and queen watched them both with deep satisfaction, knowing their daughter had chosen wisely. Soon, a grand ceremony was held in Akwas, not to celebrate conquest, but to honor character. Before nobles, elders, and citizens from across the kingdom, the king publicly recognized Madu as a man of integrity who had loved his daughter without knowledge of her crown. He granted Madu land and a noble title, not as a reward for marriage, but as recognition of proven character. The queen reminded the gathering that before Omalika was known as a princess, she was known for humility. The celebration ended not in pride, but in gratitude, and throughout both Akwas and Uli, their story became a lesson passed from mouth to mouth. Greatness often hides in simple clothing. Life in the palace soon settled into peaceful rhythm. Omalika continued walking in the gardens each morning, greeting workers kindly and sharing laughter with palace children. Madu carried his new responsibilities with the same steady heart he had always shown. Then, quietly and without announcement, a new blessing began to unfold. Omalika felt small changes within her: tiredness, dizziness, a gentle unfamiliar heaviness. At first she dismissed it, but when the palace healer examined her, the truth was revealed with a warm smile: she was expecting a child. Tears of joy filled her eyes. After the waiting, the whispers, the rejection, and the pain, life had chosen this moment. When she told Madu, he could barely breathe for happiness. He knelt before her, pressing his forehead gently against her stomach, overwhelmed with gratitude. The king and queen rejoiced softly, recognizing that the family line would continue, not through pride or force, but through love. That night, under the quiet glow of the moon, Madu and Omalika sat by the window, holding hands. The woman once rejected for bearing no child now carried new life within her. The wife once driven away had returned not with anger, but with grace. Their story had come full circle, not with revenge, but with restoration. In the end, it was not wealth or titles that defined them, but patience, humility, and kindness. For pride may rise loudly, but it is integrity and love that endure. And so their story stands as a reminder: when the heart remains pure, life has a way of bringing honor, healing, and joy in its perfect time.